Hi guys, hope you're all well. Today we're going to do some purple. I know, you know I'm not the biggest fan of purple, but I have been inundated with people asking me to do some amethyst. So I'm just going to do it because it is a pretty stone. It's not something I would possibly use too much, but I know that I could make some nice pieces and gift them, so let's do it. So before we start, I've just got two pieces here of amethyst. This one's quite cloudy. There's a little bit of banding in it. In fact, if I just get a bit of white paper, you might be able to see the colours better. It's very subtle, very soft, almost it's this stone actually broke. Dexter was playing with it, so I glued it back together. So you know, you can go from this type of thing through to this type of stone, and I think mainly the only thing we need to remember when replicating this is try and use your white based translucents, so the Primo White, Fimo White Translucent, obviously Cernit's fine, and your Pardos and the such are fine. We don't want that beigey tone, it won't lend itself to this kind of effect. And make sure you do some test chips, guys. I don't have any purple clay, so I've mixed red and blue, made purple. I did 1 part blue to 2 parts red to get this colour, which is a lovely amethysty colour of blue, of purple. But I did do quite a few test chips just to see what sort of shades I wanted. This was straight up mixed blue and purple with different levels of translucent in it. And this is that bit there mixed with some translucent, so you can see they're subtly different, and I'm going for this shade. I think I prefer it for what I'm doing. So if you've got purple clay, guys, that's fine. You can knock it either way with adding a bit of red or a bit of blue, or even a touch of black if you've only got a pale purple. But you need some purple. We don't need a lot. This is more than enough. Just pop them stones to one side. I've also got here, you can just see, I know a couple are off screen, I've used my 2-inch square and I've cut 8 squares of translucent out on a 0 setting, and all we're going to do is make up 2 sets of purple. We're going to use the same colour. I find, guys, you can use alcohol inks as well, don't forget, or pan pastels, or you know, whatever colour medium you'd like to use. Just bear in mind we're trying to keep some translucency, so you know, just alcohol inks will work fine, pan pastels and stuff will work fine. Using the same shade but just taking it back a bit, with extra translucent, works better than using 2 different colours of purple. I find that anyway with any of my stones. You've seen lots of my videos. When I'm doing that, I try and start with the same base colour, so it's tonally all the same through the stone. I just think it works better. Not teaching anyone to suck eggs by any means, of course. I always say do it your own way, but you want to get a reasonable effect with some of these stone effects. Starting off with just one true shade is the easier way to go, if you like. So let's start with our darkest purple. I'm going to put 2 squares together, and I'm going to take my 1-inch cutter, which is 1/4 area wise. This is on a 0 as well. So I've got 2 of them and a 1/4. So it's 2 2-inch parts of translucent to 1, like so. This is going to be our dark one. And then again, just take another square, and we're just going to half this. And again, 2 squares together and that small piece. So I'll just show you those together. 2 squares of translucent to a 1/4 part and an 1/8 part. Hope that makes sense. Working with these squares has helped me just to show you guys better. So there's our purples. Then we're going to need some white. So I'm going to put 2 squares again together, and I've just got a large pea size of scrap white here, and that's going to get mixed in with the translucent. I've also prepared myself a little sticker, then I don't get them mixed up. And of course we've just got plain old translucent with no colouring whatsoever, and they need to be thoroughly conditioned, guys. Do the little stretching trick. We don't really want any plaques, so do your best while you're conditioning the colours in, you know, just give them a nice little stretch. We're going to be chopping all this up because I want it to look quite fractured all the way through. So of course you're going to need some plain alcohol, and what have I done with my white? Ooh. Some white alcohol ink, some plain alcohol, and we're going to use, again, just like I did with the Faux rose quartz, we're just going to use the tiniest bit of mica just to enhance the crackle, not so much make it shine it. Again, we're just going to use a tiny bit of that. So I'll just have a quick wipe up, get these colours conditioned nice and bonny, and then we'll come back, we'll chop them up, we'll do our trick with a bit of alcohol ink, a bit of mica and a bit of alcohol, and then we'll start layering these pieces up together. See you in a minute when I've got these done. Okay guys, these have all been mixed and conditioned. I've got my darker shade, my next shade, my transam white, and just translucent. Now what we're going to do is we're going to chop all these up separately, as we've done before with different stones. I've done quite a few stone techniques, guys, so I'll leave a little iCard link, and I'll pop one in the description. Maybe, you know, I've got some new subs, maybe you've not seen a lot of my 4 stone videos, so I'll leave a link anyway for you to go and have a nosy, because I do enjoy doing them. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'll chop this one with you, and we're going to do exactly the same to each piece. Alcohol ink and a little bit of mica. I'm just going to use this Perfect Pearls Confetti white. If you're going to do this with paint, guys, water it down with a little bit of alcohol, and you just need a tiny bit. Again, you know I don't like using paint in clay, but it will work with just a little bit of a tiny speck of white paint. Water it down with some alcohol, but you can do that if you haven't got white alcohol ink. Right, I'll do this one with you, and I'll speed these up then we're not here all day. So I'll just pop them out of the way, get my little brush down, just make sure there's no loose. I had troubles with this brush, it kept losing bits. So, oh, and before I start, guys, just let you know that I leached my translucent clay quite a bit before I came to use it. Cernit Translucent can be quite sticky sometimes, so I decided to leach this, then it would chop a bit better. I've just doubled it over because it's easier to chop, and I'll just get my blade. And with the purple, we're going to do the purple a little bit more chunkier than we're going to do the trans and the white, so just remember that because it'll be speeded up after this one. So I'll just give these a little chop first, separate them off first, and I'm just going to put a little bit of mica on. And as I've said before, guys, it is just the tiniest amount. You can barely see the sparkle when we've added the alcohol and the alcohol ink, but it just adds that bit of something to the finished stone, I think, anyway. So I'll just give that a little dusting over, and I'll just chop into this more. And again, quite angular bits, guys. You know, we don't want rounded edges, we want them to look quite fractured. Oh, caught my lid. I'll just give this a tumble a minute to break some of those pieces up. Break some of these bigger pieces up, and I'll give it another little dusting with mica. And as I've said, guys, it's just a tiny bit. I'm knocking most of it back off in the lid. It just helps with things not sticking as well when you're moulding, when you're pushing things together and chopping. I think that will be plenty now with the bit that's on the desk as well. I'll just tumble to catch those bits that are spilt, and then I'll just go in and chop this again just a little bit smaller, some bigger pieces and some smaller pieces. There we go. Again, just give it a little tumble to make sure that mica's mixed in. I might just put a tiny bit more mica on. Now I've chopped it a little bit finer. Just flatten it out. Oh, I can hear Doris on the roof. She's not been in for a while with the weather. She's been off gallivanting, playing with her sisters and stuff. So she's not been gracing me with her presence. Mind saying that, I haven't really been in here much, guys. I've been a bit busy doing other things, and I'm going out on Thursday. I'm meeting my friend for lunch. Can't wait, just to have a bit of normality back, have a bit of fun. So yeah, I don't know if this will be ready by tomorrow. It might be Saturday now, guys, before you get to see it, because I'll have to do the subtitles and things once I've edited everything. So apologies if it's now Saturday and not Wednesday. But right, so that's the purple. Light dusting. Let's pop it to one side, and I'm just going to use this. Let's give it a little shake. I'm just going to do two drops of alcohol ink and a couple of sprays of alcohol, just get that mixed in, and then I'll just tumble this in it. There we go. Get my little sheet and get these bits popped on there to dry off. So that's our darkest purple. Of course, with the Cernit, it looks quite pale till it's baked. Just trying to get those speckles off my fingers. Pop that to one side. Just get a wet wipe and clean this up. Right guys, I'm basically now going to do exactly the same thing with the other three. Little bit of mica, 2 drops of alcohol ink, little bit of alcohol, and chop it up. I'm going to do the white and the translucent just a little bit finer though, not as chunky as the purple. So I'll speed this up now. Then you know you're not here all day. See you on the other side of the chopping. Okay guys, I'm going to let this rest, let the alcohol fume off, and then we'll come back and we'll build our block to make our amethyst. See you in a minute. Okay guys, these have aired off really well now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get our blues off for the minute. Our purples. Mine looks really blue in this light, doesn't it? Let's get them off. What we're going to do is we're just going to take a little bit of each. Not a great deal, so that's your lump. And a little bit of the darker. We're going to chop these up a little bit finer, and we're going to mix them in, just to give a bit of contrast, if that makes sense. It'll all make sense in a minute guys. So just chop a little bit of your darker blue up into a finer bit. Now you can add a little bit more mica if you so wish. You can add a little bit more alcohol if you so wish. I might add a tiny bit of mica and a spray of just alcohol to mix it. But I'm just chopping these up pretty fine. As you can see, I'll put a little bit more mica in just to help them separate, really, more than anything. Oh, and that is a bit too much. Let's just move that and wipe that extra bit up. I don't want too much. And again, I'm just going to go in and chop just to give that a little mix, and we're going to drop that in the lighter pile. Just sprinkle it in, give it a tumble, and as I've said, it stops it being a flat colour then guys. It just adds that little bit of interest. You could do this with a little bit of your clear if you so wished. It's just in my practice mini batch I made. It looked nice with the mix of colours. I'll just give that a little tumble, get the rest of these crumbs up. And you can skip it, guys, if you don't want to. As I've said, you know, you've got to make things your own, haven't you? I'm just going to spread these out a little bit. Put a touch of mica on first, might help them stop clumping. And then I'll just give them a little chop. And add a little bit more once I've got them a bit smaller. And I'll just put a little dusting just to make sure they've got a coating. Again, break some of the bigger clumps up before I sprinkle. Spread this out a bit and just sprinkle that lighter shade into the darker shade, just for a bit of interest. Again, you can skip that, guys, if you so wish. Okay, so now we've got our two purples, and what I'm going to do is, starting with the darker one, we just might as well pick that bit of mica up. Starting with the darker one, as we did with the rose quartz, we're going to get it to come together. Just take your time, then you know we're trying to get it to come together but not smush, so just take your time. Just apply firm pressure without distortion, if that makes sense. Don't go smush with it, just keep applying a firm pressure, and once it starts to come together a bit more, you can pick it up and start moving it around. What I'm going to do with this piece is I'm going to get it so it's on an angle. Can you see what I'm doing? So I'm making kind of a straight line, so it's like a wedge, and then I'm just gonna, now I've got it a bit more together, I'll just consolidate it a bit more. And get that edge quite pronounced. Actually, like that face better. And don't smush it too much, because we're going to just distort this a bit more. In fact, where's my, I've got a block, where's my acrylic block? Where's my little one? I can never find my little one when I want it. Just going to use the edge of my block to just make that a nice edge. And this is for part of the banding, guys, that I want to do. And now what I'm going to do is, taking a sharp tool, I'm just going to distress this top edge a little bit, so that when we add our white and translucent, it's not a flat band, if that makes sense. It should push into those pieces. So I've just distressed it a little bit with the edge of a sharp tool. You can use a pocket tool, whatever you want. Just distress it up a little bit, like so. Then I'm going to take a bit of translucent, just get it to come together. Again, trying not to smush it, but just trying to get it together in about the same shape as what we've got on here. And I may now just lift this up, just shape it a little bit. Again, I'm just gently coaxing it, guys. I'm not smushing it too hard. And we're going to pop this on there, like so. I'm just going to take another little pinch to fill in this bottom. Once it's filled in, and I'm doing it on a wedge, guys, because I kind of like the chevron shape, and I figured if we do it this way we can put two pieces together and it'll give us a V if we so wished. So I'm just going to get my little block and just give that a slight push, just to get those pieces together. Once it's formed into a block, guys, we will get it more together. And then I'm going to do the same with some white, just loosely formed enough to cover this, and we can smush it at a later date. So I've just got a loose piece there, just going to pop that on, grab a few more bits for the bottom. Can you see what I'm doing now? So I've got my white, my translucent, and now I've got a white band, and again I'm just going to give that a little squish with my block. Then we're going to do a bit of purple, so you can either bring this together and cut it, or we can do half and half. I think what I might do is bring this together loosely into a similar shape as the one I've got. Just taking my time, smushing it together, but not, well, say I'm not smushing it together. I don't want it to distort the shape too much. I just want a nice rectangle piece that'll sit on there. And I think what I'll do is just slice a slither off like that, pop that on for my block, and where's my little tool gone that I've just had and now can't find? There it is. And I'll just distress this edge again, and it's not smooth, you know, reopen a few of those little holes, flick the clay around a little bit, just so that it's not a uniform band when we put our next piece on. Okay, then I think we'll do the translucent, the rest of the translucent now. And you could make these bands as thick or as thin as you wanted as well. I'm doing them quite chunky. And again, I'm just not getting it too together, just enough to pick up and handle, and big enough to cover that, like so. And of course this has still got to come together yet, guys, so it looks quite rough. And then I'm just going to put my white on top. Like so. Give that a squash now. Make sure I've got that wedge going, and then I'll use my blue, my last piece of the pail. Again, I'm just going to rough this surface up a little bit. In fact, I could just use the bottom, couldn't I? Yeah, I'll just use the bottom. Just going to wedge that, and I'm just going to pop. Let's just get it a bit fatter at that end and a bit longer. There. Now we've got quite a chunky block, and I'm now going to work at shaping this. Let's get that piece of paper out of the way. Just firmly consolidating it together. In fact, I might use my block now. Now that I know it's coming together. Just get this into a nice block, and you can, you know, distort it, do different things to it. We can even manipulate it once we cut a slice off. That seems to be coming together quite nicely now. There we go. We've got quite a substantial block. And as usual, I'm going to wipe over, guys, to get the excess alcohol and mica off the surface. Saves doing it later. I know it sometimes only takes a second to sand it, doesn't it? But I prefer to do this just to get that excess off. We'll give it another little wipe. Just to make sure it's all off. Get them edges. Okay. So now you should have a block, depending on how you did your layers, with some funky layers running through. Obviously, different way you slice it, I'll give you different effects, won't it? But we're going to be slicing a face off like that. That one's gone quite straight, so I think I quite like this bit here. Or this bit, maybe that bit there. So I'm just going to let this rest, guys, let it do what it wants to do. Just let it rest up mainly. I'll have a little clean up, we'll come back and we'll make a pendant. See you in a min. Hi guys, okay, my block has rested. I've just got a couple of cutters out and a couple of moulds out. I think you've seen these ones before, they're the Yaroslav ones. And I'm just going to do a square pendant. and dorme, and I'll put one in a mould, then you can see both really. Okay, so let's give this, I'm going to go for this face. I don't know what it'll look like once I get through it, but I'm just going to cut a chunk off the front. There we go. Now, as I was saying before, you could manipulate these and put them together and get a bit of a chevron-y shape if you so wished. I'm happy with just the banding running through, to be fair. And again, if you spot any little bubbles, now you can, you know, give your piece a little squeeze, sort those bubbles out, and try and not overstretch. That's the word I was looking for. So I've just got a couple of my lolly sticks, just so that I know I'm not going to overstretch this. I'm just going to keep turning it and rolling it, then I don't elongate any pieces, and keep going till I get down to my 6mm. And then I'm just going to go down to 4.5mm just to make it a little bit thinner. So again, I'll roll this way and then I'll flip and roll the other. Just try and get me. It's hard to see, isn't it, where the banding is, because obviously it's the same colour until it's baked. Okay, I think that will look pretty cool. I'm just going to use this square edged cutter rather than a rounded edged cutter, and I want to try and catch as much in as possible. So I think I'll go like this. Oh, and I haven't burnished it. Do you know, burn like a sieve. I'll just give it a quick burnish, guys. Let's get that surface lovely and smooth, then we can just polish it with the Dremel. There we go. And I can still see my lines where the cutter was, so I'm not going to do, oh should I? No, I'm not going to put cling film over, guys. I'm just going to do like a straight sided pendant. Let's just make sure that's cut through. Give it a little wiggle. And get myself a scrap of paper ready and a dome. I'll just give this a wipe, guys. It's got something on it. In fact, let me get my other one. It'll be cleaner. There we go. Let's get this picked up. Get them crumbs off. Pop that on there, central. Bit of paper to help press it down. There we go. So obviously this band is going to have quite a lot of white and translucent crackle in it. Let's pop that to one side. Now then, should I cut? I think I might cut through this side now, and then maybe I'll get a bit more of the purple let's see. Let's just cut a piece off. Now then, which do I want to use? I could make a long slender one really, couldn't I? I think that'd be nice. Maybe if I cut this piece off. Let's just pop that to one side for now. And I'll make this the top. Let's get that a bit pointy. This can go in there. I'm trying to get that purple top in. Oh, I've picked something up there. Bit of brush fluff, I think, got trapped. Let's just condense that up a bit. Get that popped in there. There we go. Again, just being careful that I don't overstretch it. Let's cut this excess off. And then I'll give it another roll. And again, guys, you could do less white and have more purple. You know, again, it's up to you what you want to do with it. Like I said, as I'm not a massive fan of the colour purple, I just thought it would be interesting to do a bit more of a crackle effect in the middle, rather than, I'm just giving this a good press, guys, just to make sure that I haven't got any crackled bits. Okay, and I think this might stretch out for this. Let's get this bottom bit flattened out and this top bit. Let's see what we can do with this. I'm going to put it that way because that's the better face. See if I can just manipulate it into a nice shape that will fill this mould. Again, worry that I'm not going to overstretch it, so just applying gentle pressure until I get it filled, and then I'll roll it. Let's get that white down there, it'll look nice. Okay. Give that a firm roll. Make sure it's really pressed in that mould. I'll just give this one a final good roll. There we go. That doesn't need trimming, although I will give it a bit more of a roll to get rid of that little ridge in the back. Okay, let's get these popped out. Just loosen it a little bit first. Come on, out you pop. There we go. So that's that one. Just caught that edge there. Let me just smooth it with my finger. There we go. These are a bit easier to pop out. So we've got this quite big square with just a touch of purple. These have got a bit more of the banding of the purple in. I shall pop these in the oven and see you when they're done. See you in a minute. Hi guys, I just thought I would show you these with the scraps I had left. I put two pieces together so it looked more like a chevron banding. I made this and a little tube bead to go with it, and then with the other scraps I just pushed them all together. I made a little pendant and 2 button earrings. I just thought I'd show you that I'd done a few bits with the leftovers, just simple bits. They might be a little bit overstretched because I had to manipulate the clay. We'll see when they're baked. See you in a minute. Hi guys, we're at the oven. They look pretty cool. I'm loving this crackle. And you can see the purple through. Obviously they need sanding and polishing, which I'm going to go and do now. I won't do it on screen, guys. The surface is reasonably good, so I'm just going to go over with a couple of my nail files and my shiner, and then I'll give it a buff with the Dremel, and I'll come back and we'll maybe put one piece together, but I'll show everything in the photographs that I've done with them. Okay guys, see you in a minute. Okay guys, we're all buffed. I've put the earrings on these little rings that I like doing. You've seen me do it plenty of times before. Just let me let that go. There we go. So you can see them. Then I've just put eyes in the back, the screw-in ones. So that would, oh, got a bit of clay stuck. That would sit nice on there with the matching earrings. And I'll just pull this out and show you the square one. I've had to take the end cap off as I usually do, guys. And there's the square one on a wire. Just keep it simple. Now I didn't have any dark purple cord, so I need to have a fish about, but I just made that up just to show you. Just on some lilac satin. I'll find something better, maybe do a cream leather cord or something. But there's that one, and I don't know what to do with these two. They've come up lovely, nice and shiny. Thinking a bit of wire wrapping might look pretty, so I don't really want to do anything to them, like put holes in or anything, before I decide what I want to do. So I'm going to take some nice photos so you can have a look at these. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. Just another take on the chopping and layering, that, you know what, I do quite a bit anyway. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys.